This is a good sort of like other look at the Browns. We're now diving in to the other side of this, and it's Joey B. Joey B and the Tigers, man. Like, what's up with this Cincinnati offense? And I know, Ellis, I mean, like, you're focusing on sort of like what the Bengals did in the offseason, but like the most important thing the Bengals are doing in the offseason is like getting Joe Burrow healthy. So I'm curious what else is going on with them. Dive in on Gotta Watch the Tape.
If the Browns are so much better than this Bengals team, why were the 2 games last year so close?
It's a good question. I think part of it is that they caught the Bengals at the time when the Browns were still figuring themselves out. Like the Bengals, what was it, week 2 and week 7, right? That's like early, like, like the first game was almost a toss up, and it was like, wasn't the real Browns yet. And then like, was their coming out party the second time. So I think that's part of it. I don't think they're afraid of the Bengals now, because it feels like to me, just in general, I think the Bengals are just tracking like 3 years behind the Browns, and that they might actually just follow the same kind of plan. And that means, like, I think if we think the Browns are setting up for a little run here, right? If you think the Browns are going to try to have a chance to be good with this core for the next 5 or 6 years, I think at some point in there, the Bengals might be a problem, but not yet. So I'm not thinking about it this year, Scott, but which is why this offseason, this draft is important for them, because I can see them getting there. I mean, there's no guarantee, but they've at least not got the quarterback. And I think when you look at this offense, you can see a couple pieces, but I'm not worried right now.
I think the Bengals are a good reminder of how different the Browns season could have gone in 2020. It's 7 games by 7 points or less. The Browns won, and a lot of those were in the second half of the season. I mean, the Jaguars, that was like a 2-point game. So yeah, I mean, you barely beat a team with a rookie quarterback who, when he went down, was only 2-6-1. I guess I don't want to count the game they got hurt, but we've talked before. The Browns had a negative point differential, and that is, I think, that's a flag that you got to pay attention to going into the next season. I know all the vibes are great around the Browns, and they've made all these moves to improve, especially the defense, but they really could have had a much different season, and it wouldn't have taken a lot for it to happen. And the Bengals, like I said, are a good reminder of that. And I think we should all maybe remember that when it comes time to making predictions.
Well, hold on a second. This is a podcast about how the Bengals suck. This is not taking Super Bowl shine off the Browns. Where did that come from? Ellis asked if the Bengals suck or not, and Scott was like, I don't think the Browns are as good as you think.
Well, what I'm saying is that, yeah, the Bengals are bad, but I don't think we should sit here and just kind of discount them for next season, because this is about how the Bengals impact the Browns. And the gap last season was like 5 points and 3 points.
Scott, you just want to write a prediction piece and predict the Browns record tomorrow, don't you? We know how much you love predictions.
Oh, my Lord. Yes.
I mean, it's hard. Joe's good, right? Like if Joe Burrow is fine from a health standpoint, there's no reason to think he won't be. I mean, he's good. I think he's the kind of guy he kept them in the game, right? Like, he was doing some stuff in week 2 that was like, well, man, this guy's showing that he's got it, because they're sort of hanging around maybe when they shouldn't be. So they have a little bit of talent, but I think, I'm not going to give you like, well, the Browns know how to win and the Bengals didn't, and that was the difference last year. But I think there's a greater depth of talent, right, with the Browns right now. I think that's indisputable. But, it is hard, man. It is hard. I think Burrow's got it. And so if you think that, man, where else would you want to start? So that's a good sign for the Bengals. And now let's get back to why the Cincinnati Bengals suck, Scott.
I agree there, Doug. And that's when you start with Burrow, that's why this 5 pick is so important. These are the picks you can't mess up. If the Browns whiff at 10 last year, it's a completely different season. And we can if and butt our way all around this, but it's legitimate. Picks miss. It's a 50-50 hit rate in the first round. They can't mess up at 5. Luckily for them, there's a 3 players that probably will make it so they can't mess up. They just seem like can't miss. But again, it's the draft. You just don't know. So before we get there, let's pivot back to free agency very quickly. Three names you really need to know. I already mentioned Riley Reef. He'll play right tackle coming over from Minnesota. About a replacement slightly above replacement level player. He by no means is a long-term solution, but he will give them some stability right away there. But two offensive staples are gone. AJ Green and Gio Bernard. I won't spend much, if any, time on Gio Bernard, but you guys, AJ Green leaving Cincinnati. I can keep going, but Scott, as our in-house Brown historian, you want to pour anything out for AJ Green here? I mean, made a career out of tearing up the Browns, I'm sure.
Well, yes and no. AJ Green kind of lost his luster when Joe Hayden left because those were good battles, and sometimes Hayden would just like shut him down, and then AJ Green made some miraculous catches too against the Browns. So I think now they're both gone. It's that was really the battle is those two guys.